What is up, guys? PK here, and in today's video I want to give you guys a little bit of an overview of all of the important things we've learned through the past weeks from the PTR before the update, assuming it's on time, hits tomorrow on the 25th of January, or perhaps later today, depending on when I finish actually editing the video. But in any case, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. Now, of course, the big thing, right, the elephant in the room, is of course the dungeon mutators. Now, the system here is going to work on a week-by-week basis, so each week there's going to be a new dungeon that's being mutated. Currently we have Dynasty Shipyard, Lazarus, and Genesis being the three sort of dungeons in rotation, but they have said that they're planning to add more dungeons to that mix, but currently it's only those three. And then each week you'll have a new set of mutators on sort of a rotation of the different dungeons that go all the way from tier 1 to tier 10, giving you better and better rewards the higher tiers you get. Now, the idea is that you have a point system. That means the faster you do the dungeon, the more minions you clear in the dungeon, the less you die, the less you wipe the whole team, the more multipliers you accumulate for score, which will multiply your score higher and higher, or lower and lower for that matter, if you die too much. Eventually, hopefully, getting you a score that's high enough to reach a threshold of either bronze, silver, or gold. Now, the higher the score is, sort of the thresholds of bronze, silver, and gold, each give a specific amount of Umbral Shirts. And you need to finish above silver, so silver or gold, in order to actually progress to the next tier. So if you want to go from tier 7 to tier 8, then you need a score that's high enough to actually reach silver. But most of you probably already knew most of this, so let's move on to the other 10 things, starting with the Gypsum Crafting cooldown. Now, before there was a time gate on both crafting the gypsum orbs, but also on the gypsum casts. Now, the gypsum cast cooldowns are still there and have been set to 22 hours, allowing you to sort of adjust the time of day, so you can backpedal instead of, when the actual cooldown is 24 hours straight, then there's a tendency for it to become later and later because you're not going to be there the moment it actually hits. For that reason, it's been set to 22 hours, so once a day, but with a bit of leeway so that you can actually prevent the cooldown from going later and later, right? And instead, they've removed the cooldown of the actual gypsum orbs so that you're no longer time gated on both ends, which is going to prevent all of the gypsums from accumulating, allowing you to simply craft them all into gypsum orbs, and then instead the time gating part is going to be on the gypsum casts. Then we have Juniper Berries. Now, because I was a moron and had to do a take 2 here, I unfortunately don't have my daily Juniper Berries on me anymore, but essentially this is a way to stimulate the economy. It's essentially a drop that's going to drop from multiple different things, essentially just doing stuff in the world. They're on a daily cooldown, so you can only obtain 3 a day, and they're essentially replacing the whole Christmas tree system where you get little lock boxes with 100 gold. Here it's instead you get a bunch of Juniper Berries, which is a tier 3 cooking material, and then you get anywhere between 50 and 150 gold, and they're called bags of Juniper Berries. Now, as a crafter, there was obviously one thing that I was very, very curious to find out, and that was how many Umbral Shirts you actually obtained from crafting 600 gear score items. And it's important to note here that it's about crafting 600 gear score items, not about crafting legendaries. Now, the two will usually go hand in hand when you're on the actual regular servers, but of course here, because we don't have the +5 buff, and I don't have infinite asphalt here, then as you'll see momentarily here, we have a 1 in 10 chance. But as we will eventually find out here, you get exactly 85 Umbral Shirts for crafting any 600 gear score item. Now, that of course means if your goal is to farm Umbral Shirts, as you can see there, plus 85 Umbral Shirts, then you should of course go for a much cheaper items than Great Axes. Really, if all you're trying to do is get Umbral Shirts, you should probably be crafting gloves or boots instead. But you get a total of 85 total Umbral Shirts. Now, as most of you have probably heard by now, you can actually upgrade your named items to legendaries. Now, this doesn't work for crafted items. In other words, there's no scenario in which I would be able to take this 599 axe here. Let's try upgrade 600, boom, nothing happens. It just turns 600, right? But if I were to take a named item like this lightning strike here and go upgrade 1, 2, 3, then it's going to turn legendary. Now, it's also important to note that the cost of upgrading items from 590 to 600, it's much, much higher than the cost of upgrading them from 600 to like 115 or such. Now, as you can see here, just for these 3 bumps, that's 280 Umbral Shirts. But from there, the costs are significantly reduced. As you can see here, if I were to take it to 601, that's going to cost me 1. If I take it to 602, it's going to cost me an extra 2. If I go to 603, it's going to cost me 3. If I go to 604, it's going to cost me 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, so on and so forth. You get the idea. And then around 610 here, it starts to go up exponentially. And eventually, if I wanted to get it all the way up here, it would cost all the Umbral Shirts that I currently have. All right, but let's just try and take it to 600 here, just to confirm here. Boom, lightning strike. It is now a legendary spear. It has obtained the 3rd perk. But this only works for such items. You can see I upgraded this shield as well, and it did not turn legendary. So it only works for items that are between 590 and 600 and actually have a legendary version. In any case, that is how the Umbral system is going to work. And of course, you're going to be rewarded with Umbral Shirts for completing mutated dungeons, depending on how high a tier you get and how high of a score you get. Moving on to something small, we have a fix of a particular crafting mod. Now, as you guys can see here on the 𝒮𝔞𝔤𝔤𝔢𝔯𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔞𝔤𝔢 Oh, I already crafted with it actually. Yeah, again, because it's take 2. The Ancient Bear Paw now finally works. It's a crafting mod that was already added into the game, but just wasn't functional. But it is thankfully functional now. Then we have the actual dungeon key crafting costs. Now, these are some of the big stuff, okay? First of all, starting off with mutated expedition tuning orbs. Now, they require 10 powerful gemstone dust. 1 powerful gemstone dust requires 3 pristine gems. In other words, this is equivalent to 30 pristine gems, 5 energy cores, 5 runestones, 1 asmodium chisel, and 1 corrupted lodestone on a 1-week cooldown. Then you have the Lazarus and Genesis tuning orbs. Now, if we look, you can now craft 2 Genesis tuning orbs instead of 3, but also 2 Lazarus orbs instead of 1. Also, the costs have gone from 10 runestones to 5 runestones, from 3 corrupted lodestones to 1 corrupted lodestone, and from 2 corrupted lodestones down to 1 corrupted lodestone. And again, from 10 runestones to 5 runestones, significantly reducing the cost of crafting tuning orbs. Not just that, because when you're trying to craft the actual cores, what you usually put in, Genesis core here, 3 elemental hearts, 3 eternal hearts. The Lazarus core, 1 elemental heart, 1 undying heart. That's a lot of motes, or at least it used to be a lot of motes, right? Because these used to cost 50 motes a piece. Then they were set down to 30, now they're set down to 10. In the PTR, that is. They were 30 on the PTR, now they're 10 on the PTR. And the same goes for the elemental heart, and the same goes for the undying heart. They are down from 10 quintessence to 2 quintessence, essentially cutting the cost by 1/5. That is quite significant. But not just that. Then you have added to that the fact that corrupted lodestones and asmodium chisels are now purchasable on the market. And that goes for all the different levels of shards, right? So you could go for the legendary corrupted lodestone here. Boom, that's purchasable. You could go for the corrupted shard. Boom, that's purchasable. You could go for the corrupted fragment. You see here, right here, corrupted fragment, 100,000, that's a great price. I think we can all agree 100,000 for 1 corrupted fragment, that is a great price. I mean, come on, what's not to love? But in any case, as you can see, both these, blight seeds, iron chisels, all of them are now purchasable, sellable, and the cost of chisels has also been reduced in the actual faction shop. So they used to cost 7,000 tokens and 500 gold. Now they cost 5,000 tokens and 250 gold, cutting the gold cost in half, as well as a small reduction to the token cost. But as you can see here, you can also now purchase expedition tuning orbs in the faction shop. Now, as you can see here, they're on a timed cooldown. Now, because we're not adjudicator here, we can't actually test out what the cooldown is, but my guess is that it's a weekly cooldown, essentially giving you 3 Genesis, 3 Lazarus, and 2 mutated expedition tuning orbs a week. Keep in mind, mutated expedition tuning orbs are essentially up to 10 dungeon runs, like up to 10, as much as 10 separate dungeon runs, right? Essentially giving you 26 total dungeon runs in a week, assuming you can beat them, of course, which means I don't think it's a significant amount of type gating, especially considering the crafting costs are now so low that I feel like most people are going to be like, whatever. Like, are you really gonna bother to be like, I want 100 gold for running dungeons? Shut up, kill yourself, then shut up, then kill yourself. Okay, so I have a feeling that running dungeons from now on is no longer be an issue of gold, and instead just be an issue of finding proper teammates, which is much, much harder. But in any case, those are quite some significant changes, and essentially just the most important things I wanted you guys to know. I'm sure there's going to be a economy of sorts of selling Asmodium chisels and selling corrupted shards and corrupted fragments for those people that simply don't give a fuck and don't want to do either faction missions or running portals. So yeah, those are the single most important changes coming to the PTR. Excuse me, coming to the live from the PTR on the 25th of January, assuming that Amazon keep their word. Anyways, that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I love you guys. Stay awesome. Peace out.